He's a lawyer turned restaurateur, the first ever Mexican family to move to Singapore and attain their citizenship. He's the founder and owner of several Mexican food-inspired companies, such as Señor Taco and El Mero Mero. He's Alejandro Blanco. Thanks, Alejandro, for joining us.
Thank you, Valerie. Thanks for having me here.
Yeah. So I want to get into this straight away. And your CV is very impressive. You created many successful businesses. So what's the magic sauce, if you have any, figuratively or literally?
Well, I guess you need to really like what you're doing. I mean, Señor Taco started basically because I was craving for some good Mexican food. I had no experience in the food and beverage industry, but I saw an opportunity. I was passionate about bringing this food to Singapore, and just having fun with it. I think once you enjoy what you're doing, that's really the secret sauce.
So it's about loving the process. Is there any particular reason why you decided to go into this, or was there any other kind of reason, like a love for the Mexican culture in general?
No, absolutely not. I mean, I love tacos, but I think like everyone, we all like different types of food. Like I like Japanese, Italian, so many different ones. But no, I guess what happened was that you may recall this was about 11 years ago. There were not a lot of options to have food after 10, 11 p.m. at night. I think at that time, there were some options like Newton Circus, etc. But really, if you went out and went out to a party and you were craving for some food at midnight, there were not a lot of options. So in Mexico, it's very common to have tacos once you go out. So I wanted to stay in Singapore, and I saw this opportunity, and I said, well, let's just start it. And it was a really small kiosk. It was only 10 square meters, and it was an experiment, and it became very successful from day one. I guess the one of the key things was that at that moment we didn't have a lot of competition. It was something new. It was something that the market required, and we went through a lot of effort to bring a really authentic proposal. For example, we even have our own tortilla factory here in Singapore. So instead of just getting the ingredients frozen from the US or Mexico or China, we decided to do a full-scale tortilla factory. And this was quite an interesting journey, because of course, what, I had no idea. And at the beginning, I thought like you buy the machines, you push a button and the tortillas just come out, right? But tortillas are like bread. You can have, beautiful artisan bread, or you can have, just terrible bread. And our objective was to have, the real authentic tortillas. And it was quite a long journey, a difficult journey. But at the end we did it. And I guess that was something that was a success factor in terms of bringing the authenticity of the product.
So you said it's a difficult journey, right? And I would imagine when you first started the Mexican taco kiosk, sure, there were groups of people, but to really invest in a tortilla factory, to do all of these, you're making decisions about whether the market would like it and things like that. So I see that you started off with a very clear vision, which is Mexican food, right? And some people say that's the key to starting businesses, having a clear vision, being stubborn about it. But some people also say that starting a business is about pivoting fast, abandoning what doesn't work, right? During your difficult journey, how do you balance both?
I think that's a great question. I mean, and I'll put two examples. When we started, imagine after doing all the research, after bringing the machines and the ingredients from Mexico, and just basically putting a lot of effort to bring some authentic products. A few days after we opened, one of our clients came and said to us, this is not authentic Mexican food. And I said, why? And he said, well, because you don't have crunchy tacos. And you know, crunchy tacos are quite famous because this is what you see in Hollywood in the US, right? But you don't really have any crunchy tacos in Mexico. So and we had a lot of pressure, you know, in the sense that there was a different product, and people wanted some other things because that's what they thought Mexican food was. But in this regard, I think that sticking to what we believed in paid off, because after a few months, people really understood what it was. They liked it. They came back, and it became pretty successful, right? But it was because I think that for me, as the owner, as the entrepreneur, I was convinced that this was really something that people will enjoy. And why? Because I see this in many other parts of the world, and I grew up with this fantastic food, right? So it was not just stubbornness in the sense that, you know, I don't want to change. It was something that I really thought, and I really, you know, felt very passionate about it. On the other hand, you know, I think now with COVID-19, we have all, I mean, especially in the food business, we have really need to pivot and adjust a lot of things. You know, just to give you some quick examples, just having, you know, everything online, having your products online, having the menu online, the pay less things, and you know, these things, you cannot just, you know, say, oh, you know, I'm going to stay here and don't change. No, because then you die, right? So I think it depends on the circumstances, but I think both of the things that you mentioned have merit to it, and it really depends of having the sensibility to understand what the market wants, and see which ones come from stubbornness and some come from passion.
You said one line which I caught, which is something that you really believed in. So at that point in time, what was it that you believed in about? Was it bringing Mexican food here, or what was it?
Yeah, I mean, bringing real Mexican here. You know, of course, Asia is so far from Mexico, and it's influenced, like in any parts in the world, it's influenced a lot from what you see in the movies, right? So basically, you know, a lot of people think that Mexican food is just burritos, enchiladas, and that's it. No. So we really, you know, try to, I brought all the different things because I know the history and how Mexican food is so great. And you see this now, UNESCO, for example, you see the hawker centers in Singapore. They're making a bid for UNESCO to recognize them as part of the intangible heritage. Well, Mexican food was one of the first cuisines to be recognized by the UNESCO. So there's really a lot of history there, and I truly believe this, and that's what really kept me going.
I see. And then how do you make tough? Okay, so you talked about real Mexican food, but some others who came up and said hard shell tacos. And one thing that you said in your previous interview was nachos, right? At first, the idea of nachos was just not real Mexican, but you decided to put it there anyway. Were there other instances where you felt like you had to adapt authentic Mexican food just to make sure that people can ease into, you know, the kind of flavors that you really wanted them to enjoy?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the other aspects that we had a little bit of difficulty at the beginning is when it comes to the drinks, to tequila. So, you know, tequila is something that has evolved a lot, because I think we all have some stories of having some bad tequila and then having a really bad night, right?
Facts.
But the reality of this is that most of, I mean, when you have a bad experience, is because you are drinking a really low quality tequila. You know, for example, under Mexican law, you can call the beverage tequila if it's 51% tequila and then 49% whatever it is. So I think many years ago, a lot of the tequila that you see overseas was really gasoline, right? So you had a bad impression of it. So we brought the 100% agave tequila here, which of course is more expensive, right? And a lot of people say, well, you know, this is too expensive for a tequila, etc. But then once you try it, and once you try a good tequila, you understand this. And of course, once you do a nice margarita with 100% agave, it's a bit more smooth. So you don't get the kick of, you know, the impression of tequila, but you understand that this is a much better drink, a much better experience. But again, it's a process that needs to follow. And I think now people really appreciate the tequila, mezcal, and some of these spirits that come from Mexico.
Okay, that's very interesting. Thanks for sharing. Because one thing that I've also thought about is there isn't, when you think of local culture and local cuisine, there's a lot of mix already. You know, we have Indian food, we have Chinese food, with Malay, and so on and so forth. Do you find any similarities between our local cuisine and Mexican cuisine?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, and we see this in our clients. We have a lot of Indian clients, we have a lot of Filipino clients, and we also have a lot of Chinese clients. And they all come from different flavors within the Mexican cuisine. So of course, Chinese, they love the pork. So we have carnitas, which is a great product. Pastor, they really like this type. Indians, they love the vegetarians. They love the tortillas. They love some of the sauces because they're used to the curries and all of these things. But I guess the common denominator is the flavor, the full punch of it. You know, Mexican cuisine has a lot of explosive flavors. You have the chilies, you have the different types of sauces, the moles. So it's definitely a cuisine that brings a lot of flavor, a lot of emotions to it. And I think that's what Asia likes also. I love Asian cuisine precisely because there's so much diversity, there's so much flavor to it, and it's just very exciting. So I definitely think there's a lot of similarities.
For sure. I mean, honestly, I think that's what people keep talking about, right? It's Singapore. We love food and maybe shopping, but food being the core of it. And exactly like what you said, the punchiness of flavors is so true. Like belacan, and most people would go crazy over it.
Yes.
So completely agree there. So can we switch gears back to business then? So you've said that
yes.
in many interviews, you were successful from day one when you had the kiosk in Clarke Quay. But throughout your entire, 10, 11 years of this business journey, can you share one failure or regret that you've had?
Yeah, absolutely. And we've had a lot of failures and regrets. I mean, I think the business, it's a combination of ups and downs, and one of the key things is that when there's a failure, you need to really absorb it and change it and move on, learn from it. We were really fortunate that when we started the kiosk, we were successful from day one, and that really, of course, motivates you to keep going and going on. But immediately after, I will say about a year and a half later, I opened what was at that time the first burrito stand, which was, what you see now at a lot of places like Chipotle in the US and a lot of, different ones here like Guzman and Gomez that, they focus on the burritos places. But at that time, there was nothing in Singapore. And we opened one in Raffles City. And we went through a lot of work because so I rented a kiosk which was on the basement, right? And you may recall that most of the kiosks at the shopping malls, they don't have seating space. They're basically, you go there, grab and go. And usually some of the products there, they're priced mainly between, like $3 to $6 because they're things that you grab and go at those specific locations. But our burrito, my idea was to bring the best burrito around. So we cooked our own food, everything there. It was all fresh. So the price point was about $10. We realized that the location was completely off because we had a premium product in a location where the client expected something cheaper and no sitting space. So there was a mismatch between the product and the location I chose, right? And at the end, we decided to close the place about a year after because it was too much effort for the revenue that was bringing. And we couldn't really do much because, of course, the client said, if I'm going to pay $10, $12, I want to sit down. So there was a mismatch. And then, we decided to close. We opened other things. And there's always a lesson here. I think that in business, you plan for everything. You have your ideas. but you also need to I think to have the maturity to accept that you're gonna make mistakes, and some mistakes you can change them, some you cannot change them, and if you cannot change them, you need to move on. You need to close it and move on and learn from the experience.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's true. And often with mistakes, it always helps to have a beer to just let things go. And on that note, it's my final question. Corona
Yes.
beer, lemon, lime, or neither?
That's a great question, and there are so many stories about it. I'm gonna first let me tell you a fact that you may not believe it, but I never had a Corona beer before I came to Singapore.
Oh,
Right?
that's one of those non-Mexican things.
No, not at all. I'll tell you why. Mexico, and now it has changed because there's a lot of new craft beers, right? But for many years, it was predominantly dominated by two really big beer companies. So in the north, you had one that is called Cuauhtémoc, and in the center south, you have Modelo, which they own a Corona beer. So I'm from the north.
Mm.
So in the north, you will only drink beers that they were brewed by this company, and the other beers were like forget it, we don't drink that. So it was like football teams that once you are with one, you never go to the other one.
It's like Assam
Right?
Laksa versus
So I never tried it,
Curry
but once
Laksa. Yeah.
absolutely. It's very passionate about it, right? So I never had a Corona beer before coming to Singapore. So I come to Singapore, and the beer that I wanted, they didn't have any distribution here in Singapore. So I tried to bring it. It was complicated. I couldn't. And then at the end, okay. So we have Corona. And then I realized also how good Corona is in the sense of marketing and everything, right? And absolutely, I think a Corona beer, a really cold, ice cold Corona beer with a wedge of lime is excellent. It's fantastic. I don't think there's something that about authenticity or not. It's just about the experience and how refreshing it is. So I will definitely encourage you to have a wedge of lime there.
A lime. Okay, I see your team lime. And on that note, thank you so much for joining us, Alejandro. Have a great week.
Thank you for having me. It's been great. Thanks.